Welcome to this session, Decoding Multisyllabic Words, What to Say Instead of Sound It Out. I'm Robin Dixon, Pre-K through 5th grade ELA Social Studies Consulting Teacher, and I will be your tour guide on this session. Let's begin by exploring the learning intentions and success criteria for today. Our learning intention is as follows. We are learning to use and apply a decoding strategy to multisyllabic words so we can support our students when they encounter words they do not know. You will be successful when you can recognize students' prior CR Success phonics instruction, identify and apply the 6 syllable types to decoding, identify and apply the 3 vowel sounds to decoding, and apply multisyllabic decoding strategies to real and nonsense words. So let's take a moment to pause and think about what you already know about decoding. Pause the video and write down what you already know and what comes to mind. When you're ready, start the video again. So what are some things that you wrote down that you already know about decoding? Perhaps your prior knowledge included some of these items. Sounding out words, multisyllabic words that students read. The syllable types, affixes, and base words that are used to decode and sound out words. Perhaps you wrote down that you know that phonics instruction and decoding involves explicit instruction and the teaching of phonics. So now let's take a moment to think about CR Success and what you know about this program that's used by our earliest learners. So I'd like you to take a moment to stop, to pause, and reflect on what you already know about CR Success phonics. So pause the video, and when you're ready to begin, please hit play. So perhaps on CR Success, perhaps this is a brand new program for you, and perhaps you have no prior knowledge of the program, and that's okay. We will walk through the fundamentals of CR Success in just a moment. Perhaps you wrote down that it's a way of teaching phonics. It's a program that those primary teachers use at pre-K through 2nd grade. Perhaps you wrote down it's something to do with sounding out words. What else did you say? So when we look at CR Success, this is a program that is used by our pre-K through 2nd grade teachers to teach the fundamentals of phonics. It is our 6th year of implementation. It is pre-K through 2nd grade programming. And it is explicit and systematic instruction in phonics. It is also something that is taught 30 minutes daily to our pre-K through 2nd grade students. It also teaches prefixes and suffixes as well. And it also focuses on the syllable types in the upper grades. And so CR Success is taught through the use of a magnetic letterboard. And on the board, on the screen, you will see a magnetic board that is used at 2nd grade. You'll see that students manipulate the letter tiles to create words. And in this board, for 2nd grade, you'll see the use of prefixes, vowel teams, digraphs, etc., as well as suffixes. And the 6 syllable types are taught through the acronym of COVERS. And this one is right here. And so you'll see the 6 syllable types, and we will delve further into those later in this recording. Here's the back of the board again, so we can see this in more detail. So let's take a moment to watch what a CR Success board looks like and how we would use this in the classroom. So here's a brief demonstration. Let's take a closer look at a CR Success magnetic board. The example that we are going to look at today is kindergarten. This is what a magnet board looks like. This is the front, and on the back you'll notice that they have the letters, so students can practice tracing their letters if work is needed with that. Now, when you open up the board, you will see three main components. The first thing that you'll see are the consonants in white, and you'll see the vowels in green. You'll also notice as this is a kindergarten one, we see not quite as many digraphs, endings, and in a second grade board, you will see many more parts to building words because they're doing longer and more complicated words. You will also see a spelling box. So while the teacher is doing the lesson, students will complete the work on their spelling box. So for example, if the teacher said, I want you to make the word bat, students would sound out and break the phonemes into b, a, t. So students are working hands-on to build the words, and it also allows the teacher the opportunity to see who's understanding the lesson and who's not. So then maybe in the lesson it says, I want you to change the word bat to cat. So students would move the b, replace it with the C for the k sound, and now they've made the word cat. Students might also do some work where they're working with vowel sounds. So the teacher might say, I want you to take cat and change it to cut. Students would remove the A sound and replace it with A. So students get to do hands-on practice manipulating the phonemes and words, creating words, and it is a great tool for hands-on phonics instruction. So as your students are entering grades 3 through 5, they have been working with phonics in grades K through 2 on a CR Success magnetic letterboard. Let's take a closer look at a CR Success. So now we're going to see a small portion of a phonics lesson in action. You'll notice that they have their boards, and you'll see that this is a second grade lesson because we see many letters, digraphs, beginnings, endings, suffixes, prefixes, etc. on the folder lesson board. So let's take just a moment to watch a few minutes of a CR Success lesson in action.
All right, here we go. Our boards are closed. They are out in front of us. Our boards are closed. This week we are learning the short vowel sounds. They will help us read and spell words like on and it. All right, we are going to finish out the sounds. Let's first do on. Everybody can chain up. Ready? On. Ready? On. Oh, we need to do that again because I don't have everybody who's pinching their sounds. Ready? Give me a 5. Say the word. On. Ready? On. Good job. Give yourself a tap on that. The next word is it. Everybody say it. Let's pinch it out, looking for 100%. Ready? It. It. Good job. Open your boards. We are doing look, touch, say. Are we moving the tiles during look, touch, say? Everybody answer. Are we moving tiles during look, touch, say? No. All right. I say the sound. You look, you touch it, you say it. Point to all of the ways. Oh, Brenda, go up on the board. You're going to do it on the board. I moved our letters down so we can actually reach our consonants now. Here we go. We are going to point to all of the ways. Oh, it's on there. We can spell the same ways. Oh, it's on there. We can spell the sound. sound?
There you go.
Yes. All right. Remember, we want to be interrupting chicken? No. All right. So let's not stress about it right now, okay? Here we go. Duck. Look. Touch. Say it. Here we go. Duck. Duck. Oh, thank you. Remember, you can always look up at Brenda if you get stuck. Zanaya, I need you to sit down. Zanaya, I need you to sit down. See, our success time is priority. Buck. Whoa, listen to this sound. Z. And what's the other one? S. Oh, so we should be touching two. Oh.
And you will see in that lesson how students were pointing to the letters and sounds, and the next part of the lesson would focus on building the words. So when we look at students in grades 3 through 5, this is the program that they use in the primary grades. So why did we show you this? Why is it important to know what students are learning in the primary grades? Because some intermediate students are still needing instruction in these skill areas. We know that intermediate students come to school or come to grade levels missing some of those skills. So we need to know what skills from the primary grades do students still need instruction in. And you are building on this knowledge by helping students decode multisyllabic words. So you're taking those bits and pieces that students have learned and you're putting all of those pieces together in multisyllabic words, which simply means a word with 2 or more syllables. So now we're going to dive into intermediate students and decoding. So in the intermediate grades, in grades 3 through 5, we know that the focus of reading words becomes a challenge in that they are doing more difficult words that have 2 or more syllables. For example, intermediate has more than 2 syllables, so that could be a very challenging word for some of your students. And we must help older students know the code to efficiently and effectively read longer words. Learning to read these words should not be a mystery for our students, but instead we should provide them strategies and instruction in decoding words, even at the intermediate grades. So let's take a moment to look at some words. And when we look at the bottom, it says, which words are sight words for you and why? So a sight word is a word that you know by looking at it and knowing it right away. You don't have to take the time to sound it out. So let's look at these words. Encyclopedia. Is that a word that you know automatically or you have to decode? University. And let's look at this bottom one. Sesquipedalian. That's a really hard one. The first time I saw that word, I had to use a strategy to sound it out. It was not in my sight vocabulary, and my guess is it's not in yours either. So think about this when you're teaching students to read, or you have students in older grades. Students all have varying levels of sight words that are words that they know by sight. So we have to teach strategies for students as they encounter these longer, more difficult, challenging words. So the definition of a syllable, there are 2 definitions that we are going to look at. The rest of this presentation is going to focus on the knowledge of a syllable and how we put those syllables together to decode a word. Here's the first definition. A unit of pronunciation having one vowel sound with or without surrounding consonants forming the whole or part of a word. Every vowel sound can be found in a syllable. So every syllable has a vowel sound. That is essential to know. Another definition of a syllable. A single unbroken sound of a word or written word. Syllables are sometimes referred to as the beats of spoken language. This is our more formal dictionary definition. And when we think of the beats of spoken language, often think about what you hear in terms of poetry. Poetry often has beats within the syllables and has a number of syllables per line, for example. So let's take a moment to look at these words and see how many syllables are in each of the following words. Poetic, appreciated, incredible. How many syllables do you see in each of those words? In poetic, we have 3 syllables, poetic. Appreciated, appreciated, 5 syllables. Incredible, incredible, 4 syllables, or 3 syllables, excuse me. So let's look at some of the longest one-syllable words. Often we think of one-syllable words as being a CVC pattern, having 2 to 4 letters, for example. But let's look at these one-syllable words. Screeched, slept, scratched, scrounged, scrunched, stretched, straits, and strinks. Notice those are all one-syllable words, but notice that they have many more letters. We see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 letters that comprise one syllable. So let's take a moment to look at some critical skills that students need to know in order to decode words. Students need to know how to break words into syllables orally. So when they're saying the word, how do you break them into syllables? They need to know the difference between vowels and consonants. We often think that just because students are in 3rd through 5th grade, they know the difference between vowels and consonants. Take a moment and just ask your students sometime, what are the vowels? What are the consonants? You might be surprised that there are students still struggling to learn this concept. How do we spell real and nonsense single syllable type words? So that's an important connection because spelling and reading are connected, and we know that real and nonsense words also have a connection as well. So let's continue on looking at critical skills. And one of those critical skills is understanding phonemes. A phoneme is simply the smallest unit of sound within a word. And there are 44 phonemes within the English language. These are the 44 sounds that comprise the sounds within words. And it is how these phonemes join together that help students break the code of reading. These phonemes need to be explicitly taught, and in the primary grades they are, but please keep in mind that students may come to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade having not mastered all of those 44 phonemes, so students may still need instruction in those critical skills of those phonemes. So, why is it important for students to know syllabication types? Here are a few reasons why students need to know the types of syllables. It speeds up decoding. So we want students to decode as quickly as possible, because if all of the mental energy is spent on decoding, there's no time in the brain or no energy left for the brain to focus on the meaning of the words they're reading. It increases accuracy and fluency. It also avoids guessing the word incorrectly. Think about how many times students see a word and they just randomly guess at what that word means. Or they might see the beginning of a word and get the first syllable correct and then not the rest of the word. So we don't want students to just randomly guess at a word. We want them to have a specific code and or strategy to decode words. It also improves spelling. Again, there is a huge connection between spelling and reading. We know that spelling is the encoding of the decoding process. It also increases comprehension. Mental energy is taken away from simply decoding to also understanding what is being read. So let's look for the vowels. Every syllable has a vowel. That's a critical component. Every syllable has a vowel. Every written syllable has one or more letters that spell the vowel sound. So again, it's important to know the letter vowel basics, and those are the following. That A, E, I, O, and U are almost always vowels. Y is a vowel when it sounds like a vowel. For example, happy. Notice that the Y is making the long E sound. Rhythm. Notice the Y in the middle is making the short I sound. So Y functions as a vowel and a consonant both. And U is not a vowel when it comes after Q, because Q and U are always joined together, as in the word queen. Notice that the QU join together to make a new sound. However, in the word run, we hear the short U vowel sound. Now, if we take a moment to look at schwa, schwa is the most common vowel sound in the English language. And many multisyllabic words have a schwa sound in them. And it's also considered a lazy vowel because it doesn't make a true vowel sound that's either short or long. So let's take a moment to look at that. So look at the word model. Do you notice how the E at the end, when we say model, it doesn't make the short E sound? That would be model. But we say model. So notice that the vowel sound is a little bit lazy, not making a true short or long E sound. Pentagon. Notice the A in the middle is the schwa sound. Subtropical. Again, do you notice how we hear that it's not really a true short vowel sound in the word subtropical? And abdomen. Again, notice that that is a lazy vowel when we say abdomen. That O, we don't really hear the short or long sound specifically. And here's a chart that will show you some of the words and the location of the schwa. And you'll see schwa listed for A, E, I, O, U, and Y. So all of those vowels can also act as a schwa. Another important skill that students need to know is to flex the vowel. So what this means is when a student is reading a word, they're going to do the following. They're going to see, does the word have a short vowel sound? Does it have a long vowel sound? Or does it have a schwa sound? So if I'm reading a word and that I don't know, I might say I'm going to try that syllable with the short vowel sound, the long vowel sound, and the E to determine which is the correct vowel sound in that word. So we've gone through quite a bit of information. So let's take a moment to pause to change gears. And what we're going to do is take some time now to write down what we already know about syllable types. I've used that word quite a bit. And so what I want you to do is pause and stop the video. I want you to pause, and then I want you to reflect. What are the 6 syllable types that you know? So write those down after you pause, and when you're ready, begin the video. So did you list some of the following for syllable types? Close, open, consonant LE, vowel consonant silent E, vowel teams, are controlled vowels. If you did, good for you. Those are the 6 syllable types that we are now going to explore more in depth. So the first syllable type that we're going to explore is a closed syllable. And a closed syllable is a vowel followed by 1 or more consonants. So for example, cat. The vowel sound is always short. Notice when I said cat, that the A makes the short A sound of A. Here's some more examples. We talked about cat, lost. Notice that there are 2 consonants after the O. When I say lost, still a short vowel sound. And pups, my short U sound. The next syllable type is open. So in an open syllable, the following criteria must be met. The syllable ends in a vowel. The vowel sound makes a long sound. So let's look at these examples. If I look at potato, potato has 3 long vowel sounds. Notice the long O for po, notice the A for te, and again the O for toe for potato. They end in, each syllable ends in a vowel, and it makes the long O or the long A sound in the word potato. DE, as in the word defend. DE is an open syllable. And SO, as in the word soda. So soda has 2 syllables. The so, the first syllable, ends in the long O sound. The next syllable type is vowel teams. So in a syllable type of a vowel team, the syllable has 2 vowels making 1 sound. Vowels can make long A, can make short sound, or it can make a new vowel sound. If we look at OA, as in the word toasted, the OA makes the long O sound. If I look at OO, as in the word looking, notice that the double O's make a new vowel sound. And EA, as in the word bread, makes the long or the short E sound. So vowel teams can be long, short, or make a new sound. So let's look at R-controlled vowels. An R-controlled syllable always has a vowel with the letter R. We can have ER, IR, OR, AR, or UR. And sometimes the vowel sound is heard, and sometimes it's not. So let's look at these examples. AR, as in the word farm. Notice that the AR makes the R sound, so it makes kind of a new sound with that A. Torn. The OR, we still hear that long O in the word torn. But look at the word turn. We hear 3 consonant sounds, but we don't hear a vowel sound. We don't hear that short U at all. We just hear the 3 consonant sounds. So let's look at silent E. Now, silent E follows the consonant, vowel, consonant, silent E pattern. And the silent E is always at the end of the syllable. And in a silent E syllable type, the vowel always makes the long sound. Bike, we hear the long I with the silent E at the end. Rude, we hear the long U with the silent E at the end. And pale, we hear the long A with the silent E. Our next syllable type is consonant silent E. So in a consonant silent E, this is always the final syllable in a word. You will never see consonant LE in the middle or beginning of a word. And there is always a consonant that goes with the LE. The LE is never alone. And what's weird is there's not a vowel sound, but there kind of is. If I say table, notice how we hear the sound in there. So there's not a true standalone vowel sound, but there's still one there to some extent. So the LE is a little funny that way. I can have CKLE as in the word tickle. So I have ZLE as in the word puzzle. And notice going back up to the CKLE in tickle, notice that there are 4 letters, but there are 3 sounds. So the CK works together to function as one consonant sound. FLE as in the word rifle. So let's take a minute to pause and reflect. You may stop the video, pause for just a moment, and write down the 6 syllable types and a brief definition to process what you've just learned. When you're ready, you may begin the video again. All right, so as you're reviewing those syllable types, this is all going to build onto our spot and dot decoding strategy. Here are the positives of the spot and dot method. First, it breaks down longer words into syllables. So it teaches students to look at a longer word and realize that that longer word is broken down into smaller parts. And just helping students understand that can often relieve their stress and help them be successful. Older students need a decoding strategy. We can't assume that all students have learned strong decoding. If they have strong sight reading, they're going to need a strategy to help them as they get older and when they encounter words that they don't know. And spot and dot can be applied to most words. However, with that said, there's some elements of it that aren't perfect, and we'll be talking about those. So dependent on critical skills, those critical skills that we mentioned earlier, students have to have those in place. For example, students have to know the difference between a consonant and a vowel in order to spot and dot. And it does not work with foreign language words. So when students spot and dot, there are essential questions that they need to ask throughout the process. First of all, they need to see how many vowels do you see? We know that each syllable has a vowel. Are the vowels together or apart? After we determine the vowels, how many syllables do we have based on the vowels? You're then going to draw a line for each syllable. You're going to write one syllable on each line. You're going to read the syllable slowly, and you're going to blend the syllables into words. And finally, you're going to read the word. So let's take a moment to look at spot and dot for closed syllables. Again, you will notice out to the side that we have the questions asked that we need to know in order to understand how to spot and dot syllables. So let's take a moment now to watch how we would combine and divide words with closed syllables, and you'll see the spot and dot strategy in action. So let's see what spot and dot looks like with closed syllable words. So I have taken some of your nonsense words and some of your real words that you will see on the next slide where you will practice. And I put them on the board and we're going to practice together before you practice alone. So we know that a syllable always has to have a vowel. So I'm always going to start with spotting my vowels. And I'm going to connect with a line. So now I'm going to decide where to divide that word. And I know that a closed syllable has to be one vowel followed by one or more consonants. So I have one vowel followed by one consonant, one or more. But I also know that in the English language, I don't have words that have B and N at the end or the beginning. So I'm going to divide right here between the B and the N. So I have a closed syllable, with, and I have a closed syllable, no. So that word is with no. So let's look at our next one. I'm going to spot and dot my I and my A. I'm going to spot and dot my vowels, draw a line. Now, I'm looking at this word and I look at P and J. I know that P and J can't be together in the English language. And I also know that I have to have one vowel followed by one or more consonants. So I'm going to divide this word right here. I'm going to have the closed syllable zip, and I'm going to have the closed syllable jaff. So this word would be zib jaff. So let's look at this with a couple of real words. So if I look down here, I'm going to spot and dot my vowels, just like always, draw a line. And I know that I'm working with closed syllables, so I have to have one vowel followed by one or more consonants. So following the E, I see X and P. I know that those can't be together in the English language, so I'm going to divide right here. So my first syllable is X, my second syllable is and. So that word is expand. So if I come down to my last word, I'm going to spot my vowels, my O and my A, and draw a line. So I know that I'm working with closed syllables, so I have to look at a vowel followed by one or more consonants. So I see my O, and then I see my M and my B, and I know those can be together at the end of the English language. But I also know that when M and B are together, it just makes the M sound, and I also have to have my B sound in my second syllable. So I'm going to divide right here, and I'm going to have a syllable of calm and a syllable of bat. So I know that that word is combat. So that's how you spot and dot closed syllables. So let's see. So what I have included for you are some nonsense words and some real words so that you can see how you could divide different words. So notice up at the top, over on the right-hand side, that I've given you nonsense words divided into syllables and real words divided into syllables. So is that how you would have divided those words, or you would have taught your students to divide those words? Just something to think about as you are watching the videos. So let's take a moment to look at some open syllable words. Again, we've got our directions over to the left-hand side, and these are questions that you can ask and teaching points that you can ask your students along the way. So I have some nonsense words and some real words, and in just a little bit you're going to see how those words would be divided by open syllables. Now let's take a look at how to divide open syllables in words. So if I look at my list, here's my first word, and it says that I have 3 vowels, so I'm going to dot my 3 vowels, the A, the O, and the E. And again, I know that an open syllable has to end in a vowel sound, and I know that I'm also going to have a combination of closed syllables as well, or other syllable types. So after I've spotted these, let's look here. I know that I can have M and B together at the end of a word. So I'm thinking about where would I normally divide this. But instead of putting those together, I'm going to divide right here. And I'm going to do This is my first syllable. And I'm going to draw a line to my vowel. And now I have my O and my E. I know that this is my open syllable, and I'm going to divide again. So in this word, I would have 3 syllables. I would have am, bro, fet. So this is my open syllable. It ends in a vowel and makes the long O sound. So let's look down at this next nonsense word. Again, I'm going to spot my vowels. I'm going to draw a line from my U to my O. Where would I divide that? I don't have G and F together in the English language. So I'm going to divide there. So my first syllable is bug, and it is a closed syllable. I'm going to divide here. And my second syllable is faux. Draw my line, I forgot to do that. And my last closed syllable of sip. So I have bug, faux, sip. Again, here is my open syllable. It ends in a vowel and makes the long vowel sound. So let's look down here at the next word. So I will spot and dot my 2 A's. Draw my line. Draw my line here between my A and my D to have an open syllable. And this word would be ray, jar. Here's my open syllable. So let's look at our last word. So let's spot and dot my I and my A. Draw a line. So I've got to decide where I'm going to divide that word, and I'm going to divide right here. So then I have my open syllable die, and I have my word graph. I would keep that G with the R because I know that R-A-P-H is not a word. So that's why I know that my G has to come with my R to make graph, which I know is the root word for right. So die, graph. So that is how you spot and dot open syllables. Now let's take a look at how. So on this slide, I have placed for you how you would divide real and nonsense words with open syllables. So you can see robotic down in the bottom left. I have an open syllable row, bot is a closed syllable, and ick, which is a closed syllable. So let's look at our next syllable type that we can spot and dot, and that is silent E. The questions that we will always teach students to ask and that we will guide students through are on the left-hand side. On the right-hand box, you will see real and nonsense words that we will be working with, and that again you will see in just a brief moment of how we would divide those. So let's watch dividing silent E syllables in action. Let's practice spot and dotting words with silent E. So again, same process. I'm going to spot and dot my vowels. Wow, in this case I have 4 vowels. So let's connect a line between the U and the A. And again, I'm going to think about where to divide that word. I know that I can't have B and D together in a word at the beginning or end, so I'm going to draw a line right here. And I have a closed syllable. And I'm going to come over here, and now I'm going to connect the A and the U. And I'm going to think about where to divide that. M and T. I know M and T aren't together at the beginning or end of a word, so I'm going to draw a line right here. So again, I have a closed syllable. I have one vowel by one, followed by one or more consonants. So now I have the U and the E, and I know that when the E comes at the end, it is a silent E vowel, a vowel consonant silent E. So I know that that U is going to make the long U sound. So this nonsense word would be stub, dram, tu. Stub, dram, tu. And again, here is my silent E, vowel consonant silent E. So let's look at this next one. This one's a little bit shorter. I'm going to draw a line between my A and my I, my two vowels. And I have P and T. I know that those don't go together at the beginning or end of a word, so I'm going to divide it right here. Then I'm going to draw a line with my I and my E, and I know that in a vowel consonant silent E, I'm always going to have that E at the end of a word. And so I know that my I is going to be a long I sound. So my closed syllable, grap, and my vowel consonant silent E, tile. So this nonsense word would be gractile. Gractile. Two vowels. And this word above had three. So let's look at this next one. So again, I'm going to spot my vowels. I have four because I do have my silent E's. So again, I'm going to draw a line between my I and my E. And I see that prime is a word, so I'm going to draw a line right here. And I know that this I is going to be long for prime. Now I'm going to connect my E and my I. I already drew my line because I knew that prime was a word. Now I'm going to connect my I and my E. And when I do that, I see again, I have a syllable that ends in the E. So I know that my I is going to be long. So this word would be prime time. Prime time. Again, I have my vowel, consonant, silent E. So I should go back up and do that on here. And then on this syllable. So again, vowel, consonant, silent E. So let's look at this next word. Spot out my vowels, just like always. Draw a line between my E and my O. Going to draw a line here for closed syllable. So I have dem. Then I'm going to come over here and draw a line between O and A. And I'm going to think about where to divide that word. Now, I look at N-S-T-R-A. I can't have a word start that way, but I can have a word start with S-T-R. So I'm going to draw a line right here, and then I'm going to see my closed syllable of on. So now I'm going to connect my A and my E, and I notice that I have a vowel followed by a consonant followed by the E. So I'm going to come here and draw my vowel, consonant, silent E. And I know that that A is going to be long. So this three-syllable word would be read dem, un, straight, or pushing them together, demonstrate. So that's how you spot and dot words with vowel, consonant, silent E. So on this slide, you will see how those words can be divided with silent E. You'll see the nonsense words and the real words in the chart on the left-hand side, or rather right-hand side. So would you have divided those words the same way, or would you have divided them a little bit differently? We're ready for our next spot and dot with our next syllable type, which is vowel teams. So again, we've got to think of about our essential questions that we want students to look at. And we've got also our real and nonsense words that we are going to work with and that you will see divided in just a bit. So let's take a moment to spot and dot, watch a video with spot and dot for vowel teams. Let's move on to spot and dotting vowel teams. So again, we'll start with two nonsense words and move into two regular words. So if I look at this first word, I'm going to put a dot between the two vowels because I have two vowels representing one sound. And then I'll spot and dot my E at the end of the word. Now, if I know that I have a dot in the middle, I know that I have to keep those two vowels together because every syllable has a vowel. But I also know, and you're going to find this out in just a little bit in another video, that LE always has the consonant. So I know that I need to divide that word between the E and the T, and draw my line. So I have me and I have to. So this word would be neato. So in this next word, I see two vowels together. I see my O and my I. So I'm going to put a dot right in the middle of those words. And then I'm going to spot my I and draw a line to connect. Now, I know that a vowel team always occurs in the middle of a word when it's OI. And so I know that I need my B to go with my O and my I. So I'm going to divide it. And I see this vowel team word is voib because I know that OI makes the oi sound. And I know that this is ish. So this nonsense word would be voibish. So let's look down here at another real word, at a real word here. So I have the word. I'm going to spot and dot. Again, I put a dot between my O and my U because it is a vowel team. Draw a line between my O and my N. And I'm going to draw a line here for crow, for my open syllable. And now I'm going to draw a line between my vowel team OI and my E. And I see that silent E at the end of the word. So I know that I have to keep this together. It's not necessarily a vowel, consonant, silent E. It's a vowel team, two consonant, silent E. But I know that I can't have this at the end of the word. So I know that OU makes the ow sound. So this word would be pronounce. So let's come down here. I've spot and dotted my E, my EA vowel team, and my I. So I'm going to connect my line. I'm going to divide between the R and the E. So I have re, because I know that that is a prefix. Re is a prefix. And I know that I'm going to divide here because I know that ing always goes together because it is a suffix. So now I'm going to connect those, and I have three syllables. I have repeating. Repeating. And that's how you spot and dot words with vowel teams. Let's move on. So here's how you will divide those words with vowel teams. You'll see the nonsense words, and you'll see the real words. So take a moment to see how those are divided. Our next spot and dot that we will look at is with our controlled vowels. So let's take a moment to see how we would divide these words using our controlled vowels. The chart at the right you will see in just a moment completely filled out for how you would divide those words. But before we do that, let's watch a brief video on spot and dotting our controlled vowels. Let's now practice spotting words with our controlled vowels. So we know that any vowel can come before the R in a word. So let's practice this. So we have this word with an O followed by an R, and we have an A. So we spot and dotted our two vowels. I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to draw a line between my R and my L. I know that I don't have a word that ever begins with R and L, so I know that this is where I need to divide it. And I see for, and I see land. Now, I know that that makes the O sound because O and R together, I always hear the O sound. And earlier in this presentation, I linked for you a sheet that talks about all the rules for bossy R, and when the vowel makes a sound and when it doesn't when combined with R. So be sure to check out that document. So let's look here. We're going to spot and dot three vowels. I have a line between my E and my I. And I know that a word does not end or begin with SG. So I am going to draw a line here. Now, I have my I and my E, And I do know that I can have a word end in R and L, but not begin with R and L. So I know that I'm going to draw my line, and I am going to draw a line right here, because I know that in that word, I know that girl is a standalone word. So I'm going to keep it together. So this nonsense word has 3 syllables, and it says S girl N. S girlin is how I would read that nonsense word. So let's come down here. I'm going to spot and dot my real word. I'm going to draw, now this is a long word. So when you're reading this with students, they might get frustrated when they see a long word like this, but we teach them to spot and dot correctly. They will be able to get that word in no time. So I'm going to draw a line between R and a line between the I and the I, rather. Now, I know that I can have a word that ends in RN, but I know that I can't have a word that starts with IN. And so I'm going to divide it right here. So my first syllable is burr. Now, I'm going to draw a line between my I and my A, and I'm looking here at my 3 vowels. And I know that ing always goes together, and I know I don't have a word that starts with any combination of these 3 consonants. So I'm going to divide it right here. And so this word would be burr, ming, ham. 3 syllables pushed together that would say Birmingham. And again, I've got to look here. I have IR, and notice that I don't really hear that I sound because the R is bossy and controls it. So let's look at our last example. U and E are my 2 vowels. I'm going to draw a line. And when I'm looking at where to divide it, I'm going to divide it between the R and the D, because I know that when I have LE, that I have to have a consonant with it. LE cannot stand alone. So this word is curdle, 2 syllables, curdle. So that's how you spot and dot our controlled vowel words. And here's how those words look when they are spot and dotted by our controlled vowels. So again, look at those nonsense words, those real words. Is that how you would have divided them? So take a moment to pause and see if that's how you would have divided those words and had your students divide them. And we are entering our last spot and dot section with consonant LE syllables. So again, this is your final chart of nonsense words and real words. And in the next video, you will see how we spot and dot consonant LE words. And again, on the left-hand side, remember those questions that you would ask your students or teach your students to ask, or that you would walk them through. So let's watch a video on spot and dotting consonant LE words. And now let's examine our last syllable type and how we would spot and dot consonant LE words. Now, when we have a consonant LE word, we always have to have a consonant that goes with the L and E at the end of the word. So let's spot and dot and practice. Spot and dot my U, spot and dot my E. Now I need to backtrack because I know that I have to have a consonant with my L and my E letters. So I'm going to divide here because I know that I don't have a word that has K-N-K-L-E at the beginning. So this nonsense word would be kunkel. Kunkel, 2 syllables, kunkel. So let's look at the next one. I'm going to spot and dot my A and my E and draw a line. Now, when I look at this word, I backtrack again, and I know that I have to have the B, the L, and the E. So I'm going to divide this word right here, and this word would be Babel. Now, notice that when I'm working with the consonant LE, I can have a closed syllable, or I can have an open syllable immediately preceding the consonant LE. So I can have long and I can have short vowels. So let's look at this word. I'm going to spot and dot my I
and my E, draw a line, and I'm going to divide right here between the N and the K, because I know I don't have a word that ever has N-K-L-E at the beginning. And again, I see a closed syllable and my L-E consonant type, or excuse me, my L-E syllable type. So this word would be wrinkle. So down here, I'm going to spot and dot my A and my E, draw a line, and just like the one above, I'm going to put my line right here. So I'm going to see an open syllable, tay, and then bull. So this two-syllable word would be table. And that's how you spot and dot consonant LE words.
And here is your chart of consonant LE words divided. You'll see again nonsense and real words. So is that how you would have divided those words? Now, let's take a moment to look at other decoding strategies for 3rd through 5th grade students. First of all, we can look at unknown parts and groups of letters. So can we see a blend or a digraph? Can we teach students to keep blends and digraphs together? Do we see words in word families that we can teach students? Can we find roots and affixes? So I always teach students, and I know that you do the same thing, that we keep that a prefix and a suffix are standalone syllables. So if I can take pre off of a word or able off of a word and help divide that word with spot and dot, that can help students as well. So roots and affixes, and compound words, teaching students to break words apart if they both are smaller words put together to make one bigger word. So those are some other strategies that are very helpful in working with our intermediate students and decoding. So as we wrap up this presentation, let's take a moment to review our learning intention. So we learned to use and apply a decoding strategy to multisyllabic words so we can support our students when they encounter words they do not know. So are you feeling more equipped to help your students decode words? Let's review our success criteria and see if those were met. Are you successful? Can you recognize what students have learned prior to coming to grades 3 through 5 for phonics instruction? Can you identify and apply the 6-syllable types to decoding? Can you identify and apply the 3 vowel sounds to decoding? Can you apply multisyllabic decoding strategies to real and nonsense words? If so, you have been successful in this session called Decoding Multisyllabic Words, What to Say Instead of Sound It Out. I'm Robin Dixon, and I have been your tour guide through this session. Should you have any further questions or comments or wish to speak further about decoding and intermediate students, please do not hesitate to reach out.